there seems to be a discourse, and you guys spoke about it yesterday, about reactions to Caitlyn Clark. There's a perception out there that she's being bullied a little bit, kind of put through the ringer, where there is a sense that the players are being a little extra physical with her, specifically Black players. And then the media are being too kid gloves with her. And I kind of just want you to give me a Cliff Notes version of your opinion, because you had a really good one several times throughout the broadcast yesterday. But I kind of want your perspective on, actually, let me ask you this way. Because the biggest thing yesterday on First Take, Monica McNutt kind of went after Stephen A. Smith about not covering the WNBA, or when he should have, and now that they're covering it now.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way? And do you also feel that Caitlyn Clark is kind of being, being the poster child, not a poster child, that's the wrong, whatever the opposite of a poster child is, right? She's kind of being put through a hazing, or maybe just some mistreatment's also the wrong word, but it kind of gives mistreatment vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying she's being mistreated. I think players are targeting her a little bit.
So this is something that hit me today. I'm surprised that I didn't say this before. I'm surprised that I don't think anyone else has said this. This all started, this whole Caitlyn Clark hate thing, whatever. This started several months ago when WNBA legend and Basketball Hall of Famer Sheryl Swoopes was in Gil's Arena, and Gilbert Arenas asked a question. And the question was essentially, how did she feel about Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, and how their game would translate to this level? And what a lot of people did, and I don't want to say 100% that you are included in this, Jerm, but I think to a degree you are.
Yeah,
include
me. You can include me.
A lot of people took the part of the clip where Sheryl Swoopes talked about how it's going to take a while for it to translate, and how she made a very simple error when she said that Caitlyn had been in the league for 5 years instead of 4 and all that other stuff. And they honed in on that, and they called Sheryl Swoopes a hater and ignored the part where the very first thing she said to answer Gil's question was, she said, "Do I think Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark will be a good pro?" Yes. It's the first thing she said out of her mouth. And if you don't believe me, go pull up the clip. It's the first thing she said. So there's that. That is when this people hate Caitlyn Clark narrative began. And then you take that, and then the response to that by fans like myself and Martin Sories and other fans of the WNBA who have been here for a while, all that we've ever said is, yes, Caitlyn Clark is an exceptional basketball talent. And what she's done for the game of college, for the game of women's basketball, is something that we've never seen before. We've never seen a Caitlyn Clark in women's college basketball or women's basketball before. That is true. It is also true, and we're seeing it because it's playing out on the floor, that there was going to be an adjustment period. In her first game officially in a regular season, she set the record for most turnovers ever by a rookie in her debut. Just 2 nights ago in New York against the Liberty, she was held to 1 of 10 from the field. She had 1 shot. It was a 3-pointer. It's the worst game of her career. There are going to be highs, there's going to be lows. That's how it works. You take that. You go then to what Diana Taurasi said after Iowa beat UConn to go to the national championship game. And she got on the show with Scott Van Pelt. And she said, reality is coming. And everyone honed in on that. And they called DT a hater and ignored the fact that in that same clip, Diana Taurasi said, when you're great, the game translates. And Caitlyn Clark is great. So this idea that there are people hating on Caitlyn Clark, this whole narrative started by Caitlyn Clark fans and new WNBA fans, all because 2 WNBA legends, 2 of the greatest to ever do it, made very accurate statements about reality and the way that sports work. And as I said on Tuesday on Protect Our Queens, I know that there's a lot of you guys that are new to the WNBA and where the things in WNBA works, but none of you, I would think, are new to sports. There are very few instances in the history of sports, any sport, where a rookie just shows up and is the guy or is the woman day one. That just doesn't happen. There's an adjustment period for everybody. And so my main position on Caitlyn Clark has been that Caitlyn Clark is an exceptional basketball player. She's a phenomenal talent. this is a new level of basketball for her, and there's going to be an adjustment period, both from the pace to the physicality, to the coaching style, to the way that things are done on this level. These are grown women who've been doing this for a very long time with mouths to feed. Like, this is their life, right? This is not the Big Ten where she can just push around girls left and right and not get called on. And we'll talk about that in a second. But my only position on Caitlyn Clark has been give her the time that she needs to grow and develop into the superstar in this league that we know that she can be. That's all I've ever asked for. I don't know, and from what I've seen, that's all any other existing, or as you said, OG WNBA fan has asked for, is for people to give Caitlyn Clark the time and the grace that she deserves to grow and develop into the superstar that we all know, hope, want, and expect her to be in the WNBA. That's all this is. And I think that's essentially the crux of the issue.
Nishad 1235 says, I look like Charles Barkley. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned this is how sports work, because now this brings me to Monica McNutt and Kendrick Perkins and Stephen A. Smith.
Sure.
Where basically Monica McNutt was on First Take the other day and basically exposed the fact that Stephen A. Stated that Stephen A. could have used this platform to big up the WNBA.
Which is 100% true.
So it's not true. And here's why. And here's why OG fans like yourself need to relax. Because I don't think, to me, I thought about this a lot today. I don't think the issue is Caitlyn Clark versus Angel Reese or black versus white or whatever. I honestly think this is an issue with old WNBA fans and new WNBA fans. The old WA fans, they want their cake and they want to have it too. They want to eat it and have it too. They've been screaming that the WNBA needs to be put on this platform and be covered and thought of the same. Here's why Stephen A. and First Take and Stuff About Sports and other any sports show you want to talk about didn't talk about the NBA 3 years ago, because it wasn't popular. It wasn't as popular as it is today. That's the facts of it. We don't talk about golf unless Tiger Woods is there, because Tiger Woods is a needle mover. We don't talk about hockey that much unless Bert's Rangers are doing something special, and because hockey isn't popular. That's how sports media works. And that's the part that Monica McNutt and you guys that Protect Our Queens and all the WNBA fans who are screaming on Twitter are kind of missing, right? The problem is that this is a difference on how we absorb sports. There's two different groups. It's your group. And I'm not saying you, I'm putting you there because you're part of that, like the understanding of WNBA. But a lot of those people don't understand how media works. I think you do, because I think you're smart. But only stories that garner attention are the ones that society, not the fans. And we spoke about this earlier in chat. Yes, the biggest story of the WNBA to WNBA fans is, can the Las Vegas Aces three-peat? That's an amazing accomplishment, and I hope they do, because I think that a dynasty like that would be great for women's basketball, because there's two things that all sports leagues need: dynasties and villains, and we're working on the villain part by the game for Caitlyn Clark. So Monica McNutt is wrong, and any WNBA fan is wrong that are upset that now the Stephen A. Smiths of the world, now the Skip Baylesses of the world, now any of the big sports media outlets are. That time wasn't then. Unfortunately, no matter how bad you want it to be true, the fact of the matter is the WNBA wasn't that popular. Now you're getting all these primetime games. Now it's time. When you walk to a bakery, how do you choose a cake? All the cakes are virtually the same, right? It's yellow cake, chocolate cake, vanilla cake, coconut cake, whatever. The Aces and the old WNBA are the cake. They're all good. We all know they're good. But what draws you to a specific cake? That's the icing. That's Caitlyn Clark. She's just the icing on the WNBA cake. She is what attracts people to this product here.
Yes.
And so, but you have to understand, casual fans like me, aren't checking for the aces. I guarantee if you poll viewership, and I did, since we're and it's odd because I'm not the numbers guy here, but if you polled ratings and viewership, Caitlyn Clark's games, out of the top 6 games this season, Caitlyn Clark has 4 of them. 4. Yeah. Like that's so. And Angel Reese coming out today. Oh, it's not just Caitlyn Clark. It's me too, which was a mistake on her part. If she would have said us, that would have been.
She did. And the rest of the clip, she said us. In that moment, what she was alluding to is the fact that. So okay, hold on. So to the original point about the having the cake and wanted to eat it too, and I kind of made this point in passing at the end of the show last night because we were wrapping up. So I'm glad that we're doing this. I want to address it now. I have no issue with casual viewers at all. I'm a casual baseball fan, for example, right? I only watch baseball come postseason time. I don't care about games 1 to 162. I really don't. And to be completely honest with you, I only watched the 4 to 7 games it takes to crown a champion in October. That's the only baseball I watch. Same thing for hockey. Not a hockey guy. I might watch a hockey game every now and then, but like the only hockey I really watch is games 4 to 7 to crown a champion in the season. That's it. The issue isn't that it's happening now, because I think if you take a look at it, there are a lot of fans, media members, players, coaches, people in the space that are very appreciative that there are a lot of people like yourself that are finally tapped in. The issue is there are a lot of people that are just joining the party that are saying things and talking about the WNBA as if they've been here all along. And these are the same people that have been discrediting the WNBA and saying it's not elite basketball, saying it's not entertaining, saying nobody watches it, nobody this, and nobody that. These are the same people that talk about how they need to lower the rims. These are the same people that talk about how they're always losing money, all this other stuff. And so the issue, because you're right, the issue is not necessarily Caitlyn Clark versus the players. The issue is old fans versus new fans. And from this side of the spectrum, all that we're asking for is, if you're a casual viewer, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a casual viewer of anything. There's casual viewers in all types of sports. But don't be a casual viewer and then pretend that you're an informed one and make statements that are not based in fact at all. For example, the people that are saying that, oh, Caitlyn Clark shows up and she's going to be the best player in the WNBA, or she's going to be a top 5 guard in the WNBA, or she's going to be a top this scorer, she's going to have the highest IQ, all this, all that. That's the stuff that, at least for me, and I think at this point I could kind of speak for Martin Torres, for him as well, that's bothersome. Because it's like, you haven't been tapped into the product, bro. You've watched 11 games of WNBA basketball. I know that because Caitlyn Clark has played 11 WNBA basketball games so far in her career. Those are the only games that you've watched. And so right. You want to sit here and you want to live in a world where Caitlyn Clark is the reason why you're watching basketball. That's great. And if you want to just be a Caitlyn Clark fan, that's fine. But if you're here for the long haul and you're here and you're saying Caitlyn Clark introduced me to the WNBA fan and now I'm a WNBA fan, then in order to do that, you have to actually be aware of what you're talking about. And so when I say, and when Martin says, and when other WNBA fans that are already been here are saying that Caitlyn Clark is not the only reason, or Caitlyn Clark is not the face, it's not to diminish what she's done. Because as Don Staley has said ad nauseum, Caitlyn Clark has done a lot for the growth and the visibility of this game. There's no denying that. And Caitlyn Clark is responsible for a lot of upticks in ticket sales and viewership and things of that nature. But as we talked about on Tuesday, the Caitlyn Clark effect only applies when Caitlyn Clark is involved, right? Caitlyn Clark does not get credit for the Sky and the Liberty game a couple nights ago that set the Liberty's home attendance record. She doesn't get credit for that. Caitlyn Clark does not get credit for Angel Reese's jerseys being sold out minutes after she was drafted. She does not get credit for that. She does not get credit for the Aces selling out 19 of 20 home games. She doesn't get credit for the Wings selling out all of their season tickets. She doesn't get credit for the Dream selling out all of their season tickets. And so, again, as I've said this for a couple weeks now, 2 things can be true. Caitlyn Clark is responsible for a large uptick in viewership of the WNBA. Yes, that is a fact, and no one is denying that. But Angel Reese has a part to play in it. The Las Vegas Aces have a part to play in it. The New York Liberty have a part to play in it. The Seattle Storm have a part to play in it. All these other players, all these other coaches and teams and entities within the world of women's basketball, everybody has a part to play in it. This is not just this idea that no one watched women's basketball until Caitlyn Clark showed up. That's not what this is. That's the issue. That's the issue. And so
yeah, but see that's not
when you hear a lot of you saying that's not true. It's not like we're hating on Caitlyn. It's like, yeah, Caitlyn's responsible for it, but there's also a lot of other people that are responsible for the growth of the game as well. Because before Caitlyn got here, all those viewership numbers, all that merchandise stuff, all those ticket sales, those things were on the up and up as well. It wasn't just flatlining and then here comes Caitlyn and it shoots up. Yeah, it shot up because Caitlyn was here. That stuff was already on the up and up as is.
So I'm going to disagree with you because a lot of the Angel Reese stuff is, I call it the Caitlyn Clark effect is 100% real. There's not there's not an argument you can have against it. Yes, Angel Reese's jersey sales kind of do matter because this rivalry they have stemmed from in college has made. I brought this point up before. I think I was on JT and the Don, or maybe one of them was on my show, but I liken it to like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. The reason Manny Pacquiao was so big, one of the main reasons, was he just happened to be what people thought was the second best boxer outside of Floyd. And so he racked up a bunch of honestly not impressive victories to kind of match Floyd's resume, or at least get close enough where that was the buildup. And then we all saw what happened with that. And then you saw what happened to Manny after the fact. Angel Reese is wrong because out of the top games, her only game that has registered in ratings is the game that she has against Caitlyn Clark. That is a direct effect of Caitlyn Clark. But I pulled up another set of numbers for you.
She's a national champion. She's beaten Caitlyn Clark.
That's cool. That's cool. That's the problem.
She's responsible for it as well.
I know, but the problem is her jealousy of Caitlyn Clark. Her hatred for Caitlyn Clark needs to be studied because even when Caitlyn Clark isn't there, she's always saying something that that's the problem. She's beaten Caitlyn Clark in college, and Caitlyn Clark's more popular than her. That's her problem. You can tell. And I think that's a lot of, obviously that's Angel Reese fans' problem, but I think that's a lot of WNBA players who really rock with Angel Reese, whether that's because she's black or whatever that is. That doesn't happen often where the champion is the second fiddle to the star, right? Caitlyn Clark is indeed the face of the league for all the reasons you just mentioned.
She's not the face of the league.
100% she's the face of the league.
Who's the face of the NBA right now? Who's the face of the NBA?
Right now it's Luka, and he's not the best player in the league.
Sure.
I mean, it was Anthony Edwards for 2 weeks.
Okay, so no. We're not talking like streaky. Like when you think of the NBA, who's the first name that comes to mind? It's LeBron James.
Joel Embiid.
You LeBron James is the league, yes?
That's different because he also happened to be the best in
that
stretch. Your argument, I'm about to tell you why your argument is wrong, because you're saying the face of the league is A'ja Wilson. A'ja Wilson, she's not, because the things that Caitlyn Clark is achieving for the WNBA was not done by A'ja Wilson. That
doesn't mean she's not the face of the WNBA. I think that's the issue. Yeah. A lot of new fans have assumed that because they are here because of Caitlyn Clark, that Caitlyn Clark is the face of the WNBA. I am not sitting here and telling you that she's not one of the faces of the WNBA, because she's responsible for a lot of new fans watching the product. I understand that. But again, to act like A'ja Wilson, who is not 27 years old yet, is a back-to-back champion, a back-to-back defensive player of the year. She's a 2-time MVP. She's got gold medals more over than anyone else. She's already a top 5 player of all time, arguably.
Your argument is, I'm not arguing that A'ja Wilson is not greater than Caitlyn Clark. A'ja Wilson is a better basketball player.
This isn't an A'ja Wilson.
You're naming accolades, though. Your argument is accolade-based.
In what world, in sports, how often do we look at a league and say the best player in the league is not also the face of the league? How often does that happen?
It doesn't, because the WNBA is not a big, it's just now in reality, just now getting this international attention. I mean, there's people from different countries flying in for Caitlyn Clark. They weren't doing that for Asia Wilson.
Flying in for other players.
Not at this clip.
That's
Dwayne.
fine. That's fine. I'm
the
not
exposure and the attention that the WNBA is getting now isn't because the Las Vegas Aces are 2-time defending champions. It's because Caitlyn Clark was drafted. Period. Here's some numbers for you that strengthen my argument. The average attendance of WNBA games that Caitlyn Clark is involved in just this past week, 17,337. The average attendance of all the other WNBA games in the past week, 7,008. 10,000 more people on average. That is because of one person. That's why she's the face of the league. Asia Wilson is absolutely the best. She's better than Caitlyn Clark. She's a better player. I love Asia Wilson. This is not an anti-Asia Wilson, but for the WNBA is in such a unique, you can't compare LeBron in the NBA or Patrick Mahomes in the NFL to what the WNBA is doing, because the WNBA, for all intents and purposes, in terms of national recognition, is upstart. And I know that's not true in terms of, like, again, you're talking to you, who's an avid WNBA follower, has been following it for years. But again, this is a whole different stage. Kendrick Perkins, and I want to bring this up because I don't want to lose it as we kind of go off on a tangent. Kendrick Perkins brought up something that pissed me off today. He said that men in sports media like Stephen A. Smith and whoever need to be careful of what they say when covering the WNBA because they don't want to use trigger words like hating and jealousy. Why? That's not true. We've been doing it to LeBron for 20 years. We've been calling that man hot garbage and his family's trash. We've been shitting on his son for the last 3 weeks. Like, when you are elevated, you want to be big time. You want to be treated equally like everybody else. This is what it comes with. But we've watched Malika Andrews shit on every black athlete that's getting drafted for the last 7 years. So that it doesn't work. You can't have it both ways. You can't be protected and then you want to be treated on the same playing field as everybody else. You're now getting treated to be on that same playing field. I'm not going to watch what I say when I talk about these players. Aaliyah Boston, you piece of shit. You watched your teammate get fucking ransacked and you stood there. If I'm Caitlyn Clark, I'm demanding a trade out of Indiana right now. Like that right there. If Dwayne Marcus, if me and you were talking and I've been potting for a while and you're fucking Dwayne Marcus, you come out of DC, you know what I mean? You're the new, you're hot shit. You've elevated the Give Us a Shot network to astronomical. We're broadcasting on Mars now, even though I've been doing it for the last 10 years. But then another podcaster from a different place comes and punches you in the face. And I just stand there. You're going to look at you different. Let's ground it more. If we're on the playground in middle school and your friend gets hit, what are you doing? Are you standing there with your hands up, wondering what happened? Are you going to go pop that motherfucker, man? Like that,
But the difference between the things that you've mentioned and this narrative that there are people targeting Caitlyn Clark, jealous of Caitlyn Clark, and hating Caitlyn Clark is, to your point about Malika Andrews, there is tangible evidence that you can look over the last 7 years.
Hold on. You damn right, Martin. Let somebody say something about the POQ. All right, we strapping up. Yeah, I mean, fuck all that. I ain't here to play games.
Evidence of Malika Andrews diminishing black men over the past couple of years. There's tangible evidence of that. Other than what Kennedy Carter did to Caitlyn Clark on Saturday, which, by the way, and I said this to Martin Sories, and I mean this with all due respect to Kennedy Carter, because I think she's a really good basketball player. I think she's heavily misunderstood. Mike Hughes went into it a lot last night on the show that we did last night. Check it out if you haven't. Kennedy Carter's name in the WNBA is not big enough for anybody to take Kennedy Carter's actions as an isolated incident and say that is indicative of the WNBA. So my argument, and I said this to Martin Sories, and we've said this about other faces of the league before, namely LeBron James when we were in the bubble, right? Was the big thing about the bubble and when the season kind of, went up in smoke that year after Rudy Gobert tried to make a joke of things and touch all the mics and shut the season down. What did everybody say? Players, coaches, fans, media alike. Well, if LeBron James wants this season to come back up again, they're going to get this season rolling again, right? So we all assumed that when the bubble started back up again, Adam Silver probably put the phone, called LeBron and say, hey, what do you want to do? And LeBron said, we want to keep it going. This kept going. If Asia Wilson ran 94 feet and hip check Caitlyn Clark, with who A'ja Wilson is and the weight that her name carries in the WNBA, if people were to say, oh yeah, there's people targeting Caitlyn Clark after that, 100% I'd have no debate. On top of that, though, Kennedy Carter did not run 94 feet and hip check Caitlyn Clark because the wind was blowing, bro. Caitlyn Clark started it. This was not like Caitlyn Clark started it. Caitlyn Clark bowed her in the face, and that was the response. And Jerm, we have seen over the last 10 plus years, Draymond Green kick dudes in the nuts, and he's choked people out. He stomped on chests. He's injured. He's done all this stuff. All of this stuff. All of a sudden, it happens to Caitlyn Clark, and we act like we've never seen it before. I watched Angel Reese get choke slammed like it's back in the Attitude Era, and she's in the ring with Undertaker. Nobody said a word. Jonquel Jones a couple nights before that, the exact same thing that Kennedy Carter did to Caitlyn Clark, they did to Angel Reese. Not a word. And Caitlyn Clark and Jonquel Jones, I think she got a common foul, and that was it. Kennedy Carter does it to Caitlyn Clark. It's a flagrant foul.
No,
and
well,
so,
it was a common foul call. It
was a common foul call, and they upgraded. I know, but I'm saying
after the game,
they didn't do that with Jonquel Jones, and Jonquel Jones did the exact same thing, and it was even more blindside than what Kennedy Carter did to Caitlyn Clark. So all I'm saying is, if we're gonna sit here and like, if you're if you are new to this, then say you're new to this, bro. I will never, and I have never really, when you and Burr are here, y'all are talking hockey, and y'all are talking baseball, and I'm on the show, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, I'm doing other stuff, bro, because I don't know jack squat about baseball. And if I was a guy who only tuned into baseball for Shohei Ohtani, I wouldn't just walk around here and act like Shohei Ohtani is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's better than your favorite player and your favorite player. I wouldn't show up and pick, I don't know, name a hockey player that's not that great but's young. Like, I don't know, name one. Whoever. If he was the reason I was watching hockey, I wouldn't walk around and act like he's the face of the league, and now he's all this, now he's all that. Even if he's responsible for a lot of people watching the sport, the face of the league, the person who should be the face of the league is A'ja Wilson. Because in the history of sports, what we know by history is that generally the best player in the league is also the face of the league. Pat Mahomes is the face of the league in the NFL. I know that LeBron James is the exception in the NBA, but he's been the best player in the league for almost 20 years at this point. It's like, whatever, right? I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb here because I hear his name so much. I'm going to assume that Connor McDavid is the best player in hockey. Is that fair? Is he? Yeah. Okay. So I'm assuming then he's also probably the face of hockey, right? I don't know who the best player in baseball is right now, but whoever that guy is, he's probably also the face of the MLB. The WNBA has a best player, an established player. Her name is A'ja Wilson. And so all you Caitlyn Clark fans out there that are here because of Caitlyn Clark, that's fine. There are just certain conversations at this point in time that you don't have enough knowledge about the league to engage in, and that's okay. But saying that Caitlyn Clark is this and that, and she's going to be this and she's going to be that, when we have no evidence of that so far through 11 games of her professional career, that's also okay.
All right. So you're giving these two long-winded answers, and I can't respond to everything you're saying. What you're saying is ridiculous. We have evidence. I just gave you numbers. The face, and so Martin had mentioned face of the league equals most popular. Listen, not always. What I'm explaining is that this is a special circumstance, right? LeBron saying best player of the league, whatever. The year he won the title, Giannis was the best player in the league. Those things aren't always mutually exclusive. This is a unique situation. The reason why it doesn't translate to other sports is because the other sports don't have the same problems that the WNBA has. Caitlyn Clark is literally responsible for immediate growth and attention and a lot of other things in the WNBA. That by default makes her the face of the league because these things are happening because of her. That's I'm 36.
Okay, so you were not alive when Magic and Bird were in the league? Okay.
No, I missed all that. Okay. Jordan, but again, different circumstance. Jordan took over. Jordan literally took over. Even when he was losing to the Pistons, it was evident that people were tuning in because of Jordan. That's the closest parallel I can have, right? Patrick Mahomes, kind of, but again, he's kind of a cheat code because he adopted the Alex Smith awesome Kansas City Chiefs Andy Reid offense.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a cheat code. But his first couple years, like you saw it, right? You were like, oh my God, like they were talking about him being the best ever after 3 years. I'm not saying Caitlyn Clark is Patrick Mahomes. Again, I don't think there's another. I don't even think there's a real parallel you can draw because her situation is so unique, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Men's college basketball not popping, right? As you notice, nobody's really talking about men's college basketball until March hits, and even then, it's kind of wait until the Sweet 16 happens. Like, her story is something that people are attached to. To her credit, she's not feeding into the bullshit, right? She's just out there ready to hoop. It reminds me a lot about Luka when Luka first started, putting up 30-point games. You know, you're calling about bad turnovers. Her usage rate is high because I'm about to start calling the Indiana Fever Caitlyn Clark in them because the rest of them people are trash.
They've got good players on the team.
Well, not good enough if they were drafting in the top 3 years in a row. Not nearly good enough.
There's no denying that. They've got good players on the team, though.
So, yeah, we'll see. But who I do know is good is Caitlyn Clark. And maybe the coaching needs to change. Maybe they need to switch her style up. It seems like the team does better.
Well, the issue in Indiana is, and Martin and I have talked about this before, the issue in Indiana is instead of having Caitlyn Clark adjust to the way that things are done in the WNBA and having her adjust to what worked for them last season, plugging her into that and making that work for them, what their coach and what their – I don't want to say the organization, but what their head coach has done is she has made it seem as if the objective of this season is for everyone else around Caitlyn Clark, who's already been there, who's already been in the league, who already had established roles on this team that work for them, adjust to Caitlyn Clark. And so that is the issue with the Indiana Fever. That, and also, if we're being completely honest, when you look at that roster, the players they have on that roster, what those players do well, what they don't do well, and I've said this 3 times now before, and I'll say it again, like, I get it. Caitlyn Clark, big name, box office, all that. Superstar out of college. I got you. But when you look at that basketball team did not need another guard. They just didn't. They had enough guards. Like they didn't. Like, the smart basketball move for that roster would have been to draft a wing player. But I get it.
You're tripping. You got to, when you pick number 1, you just got to take the best player. Like, because like there's a lot. There's more than
a lot of that's
right.
fine.
Right.
Except
you got to take the best player. Caitlyn Clark was by far the best player in this draft, and it goes a little bit
in this draft. I'm not denying that. I'm saying,
right, but also for them, it's not just like, especially when you get to the professional level, it's not just about, okay, I need to put a winning product on the court. You need to sell seats. You need to sell your team, and so there is not a bigger draw in women's basketball than Caitlyn Clark. Again, not my opinion. That is evidence-based. There's another reason.
But there's also no bigger draw than winning games and winning championships either. I don't care who you are.
Well, that's not true because –
sure it is.
Because Caitlyn Clark's games get more ratings than Ace's games, and they're 2-time defending champs.
That's fine. I'm talking about in the long term.
Oh, like, well, obviously. Listen, Caitlyn Clark has to be good. I'm not giving her a pass. I think she'll be good once she figures out her Iowa game. Once the team catches kind of up to her, or she kind of figures out how she can kind of bring that Iowa Caitlyn Clark to the WNBA. Obviously, she's a rookie. She has time to figure that out. She's going to figure it out. When that happens, I mean, you thought they were hating now. I mean, it's going to be curtains and vertical blinds.
So go back to the
there we go. I'm sorry. Before I lose it, because again, these long-winded answers. There was something you said specifically that got me crawling. You said that other players were experiencing this.
Yes,
those were more isolated incidents. I mean, basically the last 7 games, there has been a hard foul on Caitlyn Clark, whether it was called or not. You could watch it like harder than like if it was an isolated if a lot of these things that happened to Caitlyn Clark were isolated incidents, I'd rock with you. But they are happening with more frequency than everybody else. Not saying that nobody else gets fouled hard, but it seems like Caitlyn Clark gets it not way more, but she does. It's a noticeable. You can notice it. There's a reason why that narrative exists. There's a reason why when Kennedy Carter did it, it wasn't that she just did it and it was an isolated incident. It was, oh my God, here's another one. This one just happened to be more blatant than the other.
I do agree. And Martin and I talked about this last night. We just talked about this in general. I do agree that Kennedy Carter, the timing of Kennedy Carter doing that was not ideal because this narrative already started. Now he had this issue. But like, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. This is basketball, man.
I feel you.
So if we're at a point if we're at a point right now in the WNBA where we're going to complain about every time Caitlyn Clark drives to the lane and she gets hit with a hard foul and it's not called, then like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, this is basketball. As Martin said last night, you're going to get touched, bro. It's just how it works. What are these women supposed to do? Are they supposed to part the Red Sea like Moses did way back when and just let her
No,
walk?
I just don't want the JBL clothesline from hell every time she goes in for a layup.
That's fine. And so that if the issue that we're having is that Caitlyn Clark is being fouled in common basketball plays and it's not being called, that's not on the players, the coaches, or the teams. That's on the officials to call those calls. If the issue is if the narrative that we're making is that Caitlyn Clark is being bullied, she's being targeted, and she's being hazed and all this other stuff, there's no tangible evidence to support any of that. Again, this hate narrative started because of what Cheryl Swoop said, which was a very accurate and a very on-point assessment of both Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese. That's where this started, and every step along the way, every Caitlyn Clark fan has looked for one thing that doesn't align with their line of thinking about Caitlyn Clark to drop that into the bucket of hate. That's all. I do not deny that the Caitlyn Clark effect is real, and that Caitlyn Clark has a big role to play in where women's basketball is right now. All I'm saying is, if we are making a pie graph and dishing out percentages, yeah, she might get a large chunk of it, but she's not 100% of it. That's all. That's all it is. And I think if we can just come to that common ground and realize that Caitlyn Clark is not responsible for other teams that are not associated with Caitlyn Clark reaping the benefits of the growth of women's basketball and women's sports as a whole, I think this would be a much easier conversation. I can't wait for Caitlyn Clark to get comfortable and be the Caitlyn Clark that we saw her to be in Iowa. That's what's best for business. There's no denying that. I just want people to give her the time to do that so that we can see that and we can enjoy that and we can put her in the conversations that people are so ready to put her in right now. One of the best scorers and shooters and all this other nonsense. I want Caitlyn Clark to get the time that she deserves, to go through the growing pains so that she can be put in those conversations and we can enjoy Caitlyn Clark's career because she's going to be great. She's going to be. I don't think it's an if. She's going to be.
So, are you a third or are you a junior?
I'm a junior.
All right. So this is Dwayne Marcus Sr., who I am now going to rename Dwayne Marcus Classic. So Dwayne Marcus Classic said Jordan rules for Caitlyn. The league beat up Jordan for 5 years before he adjusted, and he also said that he doesn't expect Caitlyn to take that long. I agree. Jordan, again, it's hard to draw parallels between Caitlyn Clark and like a Michael Jordan. Obviously,
yeah.
I would never say, and just like with the A'ja Wilson thing, I'm not saying that Caitlyn Clark is a better basketball player, but to me, in this specific situation, being the face of the league at this current point in time is different than being the best player. Not saying she can't one day be the best player, not saying any of that, but because of the circumstances that is fact-based on numbers, she has to be the face of the league because the league hasn't seen this success before she got here. And again, the rest of it is residual. Angel Reese can say anything she wants. The numbers don't lie on that. Four out of the top 6 games are Caitlyn Clark games. The only other games that weren't was an Aces, and I believe it was a rematch of the title game last year. And then
no, we haven't played the Liberty yet.
It wasn't the Liberty. It was a Liberty game.
Probably Liberty Sky game because it sold out, I would imagine.
It might have, I think it was Liberty Sky, and then it was an Aces Sun or something like that.
Yeah, it might have been the Aces Mercury game.
I'm not Connecticut. Yeah, Phoenix Mercury. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I knew it was like an orange. I knew it was.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah. That makes sense though.
Donato Bucci. Hey, JT and the Don. Shout out to them. They were going to try to make it in tonight, but they couldn't make it in. But shout out to Don. He's a very good dude. Check them out on the Give Us a Shot network. Caitlyn is having the magic bird effect that literally saved the NBA. Yeah, I mean, you could bring it to that too, right? The style change, right? And hers isn't style on the court; it's what she's doing off the court. Again, you want to say that it's because she's a white girl from Iowa and the white people, it's like Trump shit. Like, cool, fine, who cares? But the residual is what you want. That's That's part of my frustration with the old WNBA fans. What are you complaining about? You're getting the most attention that you're ever gotten before. Capitalize on it. Don't waste your time trying to clothesline Caitlyn Clark out of existence. You will prove how good you are by beating her, which teams have done. The Indiana Fever, the reason why they got Caitlyn Clark is because they weren't good. They'll get good one day. But Caitlyn Clark is going to, she had a three point game the other day. Not great. But that's fine. She just dropped 30 the night before or two games ago. So
that's fine.
And
that's the ebbs and flows of it. That's what I mean. Like that's the ebbs and flows of it.